Hi, everybody. January 4, 2019. I have hit an overwhelm that I can't seem to shake. I keep trying to shake it. I don't even know what to say anymore. There is so much going on all over the world simultaneously. Indonesia.
Muhammad Rusti has lived his whole life in this street, but he hasn't seen floods like this in years.
I panicked at first as the water started coming in, but we're so used to it. We knew what to do. We moved everything upstairs.
Tens of thousands in Jakarta aren't so lucky. They've been forced out of their homes by the flooding. Entire streets in Jakarta have been submerged, forcing residents to use boats or swim to get around.
In our area, there are about 4 villages which are flooded.
The water level began rising before dawn yesterday as relentless rains bucketed down over New Year. Cars were washed away, streets turned into rivers, leaving tens of thousands of people stranded.
Our focus is on rescuing residents. All officers are on duty today.
Jakarta's domestic airport was closed because the runway was more suited to boats than planes. The disaster has already claimed multiple lives. This mother is mourning her 16-year-old son, electrocuted as he climbed a power pole to escape the floods.
I didn't know what happened until his younger brother came and told me.
To prevent further deaths, the state power company switched off the electricity in more than 700 districts. Ageing infrastructure and a woeful drainage system only exacerbate the problem. These are the deadliest floods in at least 7 years, and the forecast is for more rain to come. It's disasters like these that have driven the government's plan to relocate the capital from Jakarta to Kalimantan as soon as possible. Ann Barker, ABC News, Jakarta.
Okay. An awful lot of people all over the world are losing everything more and more every day. Do you remember this?
About lunchtime yesterday, it all pretty well started at Tathra with what a lot of us thought was just bushfire coming from the Victorian area, until we realised that it was much, much closer, in fact, at the back of Tathra. When I got onto the veranda at our house, 3 streets away from where the fire was, I could look back and see the Tathra school with the fire behind it. And it was about that time that we thought, yes, we better go.
And was that at about 1:30 in the afternoon, and the emergency warning didn't come through until about 4 o'clock, is that correct?
Exactly right, Karina. We were all waiting for that emergency warning. We all had our phones turned on. We had some people at our place, so we had about 5 phones. None of them had any indication of what was coming at all.
Just tell me, do you think then that it was miraculous that no one was killed and no lives were lost, that people were able to get to safety, given that they didn't get those warnings beforehand? They were just looking at the flames and seeing how close they were and decided to move?
Exactly right, Corinne. I couldn't have put it better myself. It was quite horrific that nobody was actually hurt. So when we saw the flames at the back of the Tathra school behind us, we told neighbours and friends as much as we could, running up and down the street, to simply get out of the place, because obviously the fire was very close to us. At 4 o'clock, when the signal actually came through, it said that the Tathra River Estate people, it was too late to evacuate and to stay and protect themselves, but everyone else to evacuate.
Okie dokie. Tathra. Scalar weapons, Australia's mega regions got normalcy bias. Give it up. We are at war. A subscriber left this link and asked me to check out this video, not realizing that it was mine. This is on my primary channel, Never Lose Truth. And it's interesting how YouTube no longer provides dates. But this I posted, I don't know, well, a year ago, I guess, based on the comments. The fires. Australia. I'm overwhelmed. I'm over here in the United States, in the state of South Carolina, and I am overwhelmed with what's happening in Australia.
Amid the dangerous fires burning in the New South Wales Snowy Mountains, a water reservoir in nearby Cooma has burst. Emergency services, they were called to the area after thousands of litres of water flooded homes and streets last night. An elderly woman has been injured and remains in hospital. At least one home was destroyed and several cars have been damaged.
What? Okay.
Amid the danger...
There'll be another video that I'll play a few minutes of. A water reservoir up and burst, flooding out. People who were worried about getting burned out. And the news reporter asks, how can that happen? Well, if frequencies are in use, they can burst a lot of infrastructure.
We've just had a briefing from the New South Wales Premier and the Commissioner of the Rural Fire Service. We have a clearer idea of the full force of the fires across the country's southeast. One person has been confirmed dead just outside the small town of Badlow in New South Wales. 4 fire and rescue workers have been injured across the state. We know that there have been homes lost on the south coast and further inland, but we can't tell you how many, but we are told there is significant damage and destruction. More than 30,000 homes are without power in Bateman's Bay. Defence Force troops are about to make their way to the south coast to provide support. In Victoria, there are fears the Corryong fire on the border will merge to create a mega blaze. In Malakuta, the Navy's largest vessel will deliver emergency supplies to the people still stranded there. We, of course, have reporters across the key fire grounds this morning. Let's get some more details on that breaking news we just heard from the New South Wales Premier. A man has died in those fires near Badlow. Montana Duncan joins us from Tumut. Montana, what more do we know?
Yes, terrible news this morning. Police have confirmed that a man from Goulburn has died while trying to defend his friend's property near Badlow. It was about 6:30 last night. The 47-year-old was at a home on Badlow Road when he tried to get water from a nearby ute. Unfortunately, he did not return and his friend went to go check on him and found him unconscious. Unfortunately, despite the effort of emergency services, he was unable to be revived. As I said, terrible news, and it just goes to show how devastating this fire really is.
All right, Montana, thank you. Now to Bateman's Bay on the New South Wales south coast, where power has been cut to more than 30,000 homes, with fire crews fearing the worst, unable to inspect the extent of the damage. Let's go to Lara Vella. Lara, evacuation centres are overflowing there.
They sure are, Tracy. Right now we are in the middle of breakfast time, so there's quite a lot of hustle and bustle just in the building behind me here. The team at the Bateman's Bay Evacuation Centre have been doing a remarkable job to keep the hundreds of people here fed and watered. Some of those people, well, they've been here overnight. Others, though, have been here since that New Year's Eve fire raged through this area. So that's going on around 5 days now. They are tired, they are anxious for news, but making that more difficult is the fact that the power is out to this entire area, and including the surrounding communities, plus where we were last night, the township of Maruya, no power there as well. So last night, my crew and myself, we had to walk around our accommodation using the light of our torches to try and see what we could. No word at this stage as to when that power will be restored. Some good news, though, we can report this morning, Tracy. The forecast for a little bit of rain today and getting heavier from tomorrow, so that is absolutely fantastic fantastic news. The challenge for today, though, there's more than likely going to be a mass exodus. So that is once again thousands of people taking to the road because there are still a lot of holiday makers here, so they are going to be wanting to make their way home. The problem, though, is we still have road closures in place as a result of power lines down and trees down as well. So anyone making their way home today, be prepared. It is going to take very, very long time, many hours you would expect, Tracy.
A lot of patience needed. Lara, thank you. To Victoria now, and authorities have released this map showing the full size of the Corryong fire compared to Melbourne. The fire has burned through 127,000 hectares, with fears it will join with another fire to create a mega blaze. Meantime, at least 50 people in the eye of the firestorm have been rescued from the town of Omeo. Now, there's been confusion over the decision to deploy 3,000 military personnel, and we've heard from the RFS Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons expressing his anger for not being told before the Prime Minister announced the decision.
I was disappointed and I've expressed that concern, but we've moved through that and we're making sure we understand how we can get that integrated and operating in New South Wales arrangements. I can't speak highly enough of the leadership and the support that I've got here. We've been very strong about talking about the national cohesion.
All right. How is it? This man was not even informed of the Prime Minister's plan to send in 3,000 personnel. How does that happen? I don't get it.
It's been a night from hell for many residents in East Gippsland as a firestorm swept across the state and turned the skies red. Victoria's Emergency Management Commissioner Andrew Crisp joins us now. Andrew, good morning to you. What is the current threat this morning?
Well, at the moment we've got 4 emergency warnings for our fires across the east of the state. So to the far east of Gippsland, we've got 3 and 1 up on that Corryong fire. We've got to evacuate now for fires just off Mount Buffalo, so Dandongadale and Harrietville. So, you know, where we've got those warnings and those evac now, they're certainly our priority areas, but, you know, we've got to remain vigilant across the whole state, particularly in relation to the east. Yeah, we've now got, you know, literally hundreds and hundreds of kilometres of active fire edge.
And east is
40 fires burn out of control, half of the state, Victoria. And then there's New South Wales, South Australia. There are so many areas that are burning up in Australia, and I understand why people are saying Australia is burning. You put in a search on YouTube, put in Australia needs your help. You will see a whole lot of videos on Australia needing help. Town flooded as reservoir collapses.
Flooded when a reservoir burst, sending more than 1 million litres of water crashing down on homes. Tiffany Genders is across this, Tiff. How did this happen?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, Tracy. The people here at Molong Place are very keen to find out how this tank simply buckled, sending a torrent of water, mud and debris into their homes. It was just after 9 o'clock last night when the residents here heard what they thought was thunder. The next thing, they were inundated. One house in particular bore the brunt of it. A husband, wife and their 2 little girls were inside when the doors ripped off and 1 million litres or more came crashing in.
Oh, it just sounded like thunder, and she just come down the hill there and flooded us. We thought we were going to get burnt out. We got flooded. It blew the back doors off the house and we couldn't open the front doors to get the water out. Kids were floating around the living room on couches.
An elderly woman in her 90s was rescued from knee-deep water in another house. She's okay, but is in hospital as a precaution. The clean-up here will be mammoth. Now, the reservoir was being used to fill to the brim to help with these fires. Just how it burst is now subject to a big investigation.
So the water filled to the brim to help with the fires is now gone. Wow. Wow. This is a recent video. Australia wakes after night of bushfire devastation. And, well, let's watch a few minutes.
Towns are without power, but the true extent is being assessed right now. And we're being warned the fight is far from over. Crews on the front line still battling against unpredictable conditions. We have reporters across the country ready to bring you the latest advice. Sarah Stewart begins our coverage.
They predicted a horror day and night. A bushfire emergency on the biggest scale our nation has ever seen. 3 states caught up in a mega firefight. On the New South Wales south coast near Nowra, a blaze that had been building for weeks.
Yeah, we need to get out of here.
The fire jumping the Shoalhaven River, burning either side of the Princes Highway.
Scared witless.
A close call for a group of fireys at St George's Basin, nearly outrun by a lightning-fast blaze.
Out on the ground, and then it just came, so we just got back to the truck, acclimated the emergency sprays and brought it in.
Further south, and thick, dry forest ignited along the Clyde River, surrounding Bateman's Bay. Those who hadn't evacuated told to seek shelter or get to the water.
Just pretty much banding together, mate, all of us as a group, and looking after each other.
An almost otherworldly glow overtook Narooma, a blood-orange haze in a usually bustling tourist haven.
Everyone's left town, just about.
Inland in the small apple-growing town of Batlow, the fire tore down on homes, gas cylinders exploding at a local petrol station.
Everybody in this town is a hero. Everybody.
Over the border in Victoria couldn't escape, contending with a new Black Saturday. The skies over Malakuta turning pitch black in the middle of the afternoon.
Very eerie and it's incredible, isn't it?
Relief as the first evacuees disembarked in Port Hastings after 20 hours at sea.
It's quite nice to be on solid ground again.
But frustration for others. Parents with young children and the elderly this morning still waiting for a chopper, yesterday unable to fly in thick smoke.
Lou's just come down with smoke-induced laryngitis, so he's sort of pretty croaky and pretty miserable today.
Residents in Omeo and Swift's Creek luckier. 50 people flown out of bushfire zones by the ADF. Fierce blazes burning either side of the border will merge to create a mega blaze. In South Australia, it was an inferno described as virtually unstoppable.
Keep pushing through. We're doing okay directly behind you. Keep pushing through.
The fire claiming the lives of a father and son, discovered in a burnt-out car.
It's got around very fast, and there's just disbelief, total disbelief of something like this could happen.
A third of the island wiped out, 150,000 hectares burnt through, even destroying a luxury resort. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is still copping widespread criticism, accused of putting PR before people. At this stage, there's no sign of the fires going anywhere.
One of the worst hit areas is Eden, south of Bega, on the border between New South Wales and Victoria, where an out-of-control fire is threatening lives. Liz Daniels is in Merimbula, about half an hour north of Eden. Liz, the evacuation centre there has been evacuated. Do we know the scale of the damage yet?
Tracy, it's really hard to know what has happened overnight. That fire has burnt out emergency level, and here in Merimbula at Club Sapphire behind me, no doubt many have had a very sleepless night. The terror began about 7 o'clock when it became apparent that those who'd gathered in Eden from those surrounding areas as that blaze crept from Malakuta across the Victorian border, that those in Eden who had been evacuated to there were no longer safe to stay. And in a symbol of what's been an unpredictable crisis, the evacuation centre had to be evacuated. So those people were all brought either here to Merimbula or across to Bega, where they would be safer. Now, they've escaped the danger of the fire front, but it's still ominous signs here in Merimbula there's seriously thick smoke. There's ash been falling, raining ash all night. The ground is covered in black soot. We've seen particles as big as that falling on cars are covered. The gutters are full of ash. So this fire and the scary nature of how ferocious that fire is, fanned by that blustery southerly yesterday afternoon, is still very real here in Merimbula.
All right, Liz, thank you very much for the update.
I will link below to everything, and you can click on the links to watch the full videos. And if you hear some, the high-pitched, it's a kitten in my lap. I'm holding on to her because he really likes to play at this time. So, and that play is quite a lot of noise.
People were just running down the street and the cars were coming, and we all, children, old people, and we all just ran to the beach, which was safe, and we just sat on the beach and watched.
A feeling of helplessness as friends and neighbours lost everything. Jade McMillan, ABC News, Rosedale.
The helplessness that's a really hard state of mind and feeling to contend with. Helplessness. Because I know that there are so many things that can be done to help people who are really, really suffering. And, helping people in our own community. I get hope when I see, these videos where people are helping one another out, and government seems to be failing a lot. So we can't rely on government to help us. We have to rely on one another. So that means we've got to bring back community and really reach out. And not wait for people to ask, but go and help people that you know need help. Yeah.
For us tonight, Ruth, locals there are still on edge after a very long day, bracing for the worst.
Oh, Jane, it has been such a long and strange day for the people who evacuated here to Narooma. Fire is burning on virtually every side of this town, and as those fires heated up today, the sky here took on that almost otherworldly bright orange glow, and very strangely there was almost no wind at all, but there's been no time for people to feel relieved about that. We've just felt that southerly. It's come sweeping through here, and it's changed the direction of the fire front around here. That fire is now charging north, and Jane, tonight it's heading straight towards properties at Badella.
A lot.
Great. I heard a report of 500 homes gone overnight in New South Wales.
In times of crisis, we need our leaders to step up. With warnings the relentless fire threat will get even worse, Prime Minister Scott Morrison copped some unfiltered criticism from locals in a town that lost everything.
Nah, you're an idiot, mate. You really are. There's nothing quiet about these Australians. Their town of Cobargo was almost wiped out on New Year's Eve, and they're angry.
I don't see Kira Billy burning after the fireworks.
Scott Morrison was attempting to be empathetic, but a forced handshake with a pregnant mother went down like a lead balloon.
How are you?
I'm really shaking the hand that you give more funding to our RFS. So many people here have lost their homes. We need more help.
This volunteer firefighter just not interested.
I'm sure he's just tired. No, he's off the house.
Their town has no power, no supplies, and they feel like they've got no hope.
This is not fair. We're totally forgotten about down here.
And they're blaming the Prime Minister for not doing enough to help.
We get nothing. If we were Sydney, if we were North Coast, we would be flooded with donations, with emergency relief.
People are angry, and they will, if people want to direct that at me, or that is up to them. And it's not something that will distract me, it is something that I will empathise with.
This reaction from a small town that's got no political allegiances. They voted almost 50-50 Labor-Liberal.
To be honest with you, that's the feeling on the ground. I mean, I didn't even know it was coming, he's in my own patch.
The local member, a state Liberal minister, declaring the PM got what he deserved.
For the locals, probably gave them the welcome that was to be expected. The nation...
You know, people are directing their anger at this Prime Minister because that's where the anger is appropriate. It's appropriate. You know, I think about all of the funding for these smart cities and the high-speed rails. And, well, when you have an awful lot of your own who have lost everything, you put all of that on hold. What's the rush for the smart cities? Oh, right, it's climate change. Carol, don't you know? It's climate change that's creating all of these fires. So we need smart cities, sustainable cities. Oh, right. Wow. Yeah, I don't see a way out. When I do the research and I see climate change, climate change, climate change, climate change over and over and over again, well, and then so many of our fellow citizens believing in this climate change, and then the people who actually know truly what's going on are just considered crazy nut jobs. How can we ever stop this from happening? The other thing that I hear a lot is these fires are, common. And, well, fires like this, if it's so common, why the hell are people living in these areas? These fires were not common. People have lived in these areas for, well, from what I've heard from people who have been interviewed 35, 40 years, they're home, untouched by fire. Now, they're all scattering, evacuating, or running for hoses to try to save their homes. If it was climate change, it would not happen as dramatically as we are seeing. But people also don't look up, and they don't want to hear that, oh, those contrails that never disappear are filled with incendiary substances that fall down on those bushes, the trees, and are creating these explosive fires. Don't you wish that there was something that we could do to get this stopped? That's where the helplessness comes from, because people won't listen to you. So we watch all of the suffering. And then we also learn that the government in Australia has denied the firefighters equipment. They actually, they were having to seek donations for masks and for equipment. And people shouldn't be angry at the Prime Minister?
Oh, it's good, but we need some action out of it. Like, we're running around in private vehicles.
He, by the way, is talking about Scott Morrison's visit to this area. And talking about how he needs more equipment.
Using their private diesel, chainsaws, fuel to put these fires out because there's not enough units on the ground.
I have heard this about crews on the ground who said they've had to buy their own chainsaws and hose nozzles. What is that? Is that what you guys are doing?
Well, you already have all this gear, but you turn up and we're going to get 2 trucks here. There's 2 trucks over here that run upstream, and it's just not sufficient. Like, this fire's got too big, so everyone's getting in their private vehicles to try and get it out. Well, I've asked him if the Army was getting involved. He said they've been involved 2 months. We haven't seen anything out here. Like, we need dozers, units, and more now.
So, is the Army going to get involved? The Prime Minister says they've been involved for 2 months. But where are they? And that's what I'm hearing a lot too. People in areas are saying that there were no helicopters dropping water, that they had no help. Look at this. This is a aerial view of burned out towns. In this area in New South Wales and Victoria, nearly 250 homes were destroyed. 12 people, well, this is from January 1. The number has gone up, I believe, to 27 dead. I think probably many more. But, you know, I can't watch every video. If anybody wants to scroll through the videos looking for evidence of the unusual. But, you know, in California, there was a tremendous amount of evidence of directed energy weapons being used. I haven't seen the same kind of evidence. You know, it's very spotty. And in this video, I do see it. The trees around the homes, even though it's so filled with smoke, it's hard to see. But somehow, this bushfire, well, it darted around the trees and got the homes. Look at this. All right. It is hard to see, but take note of the trees with their leaves, and the homes are gone, destroyed, leveled. And yet there are trees all around them. See the trees? But the homes are gone. Now, did this area have smart meters? Perhaps. Perhaps. And it does seem, look at this. I mean, oh man. So, the videos are really not, they show a lot of the sky and the massive fires, but I haven't seen a lot of aerial footage, but look at this. I mean, how is it that a wildfire, this home, I think this one, these, but they're all surrounded by trees. You had the high winds. You have all of this damage, but nothing is on the streets. It's clean. This is essentially the same kind of footage that we've seen in California. Yeah. I'm going to stop it now and pick up with more in the next video. But I have to tell you guys, I am so sorry that this is happening. Yeah, we need to come together and figure out a way to help one another. There are still a lot of tourists and people who live in Malua, is that how you pronounce it? Stranded on the beach, waiting for the Navy to evacuate them. And they've been there for days. Probably without supplies, or maybe the Navy brought in supplies the first time they came to evacuate. I hope that's the case.